And here to lead us in our next panel, where we will discuss emerging opportunities in Europe's biotech and pharmaceutical industries, all the way from Germany, one of my favorite people on the planet, a longtime cannabis activist and a great person and the founder of the MJ Universe. Let's hear it for Lisa Haag.
Thank you everybody, and thank you for being here on this panel. It's a pleasure for me to be the moderator to these super interesting topics. Cannabis is a highly complex ingredient that as we've learned, I think we all understand that there are different industries that are highly interested in the topic, and so especially for the biotech, life science and pharmaceutical industries, it's something that is becoming more and more relevant, and that is also becoming more and more interesting for a number of reasons. And it's my pleasure to have here today Sabina Suljakovic, did I pronounce it correctly? Chief Quality and Commercial Officer at Argent Biopharma. He has a specialization with her company on the manufacturing of non-sterile liquids, including cannabis-based medicines with a specific EU GMP license, and she has 10 plus years of experience in a highly regulated and complex compliance context and navigating complex ecosystems. Then we have Danielle Bernstein from President at Lower Crest. They are a US-based, US GMP-based certified cannabinoid manufacturer, and she's here today to look at global expansion with her venture and also to help bring her mission across the globe to give access to safe plant-based medicines. And then I have Dr. Marietta Cesen here. She's Chief Regulatory Affairs Officer at PharmaHemp. I had the pleasure to have her on another panel years ago, so it's great to have a familiar face on one of my panels again. She graduated at the Faculty of Pharma with a PhD in ecotechnology here in Slovenia, I think. And she has been a scientist for Slovenia and other EU projects and has been involved on different levels for different segments. And in 2018, she joined PharmaHemp with a specialization on cosmetics, food supplements, and medicinal products. So as you can see, we all have API specialists here on this panel. So I wanted to start with you, Marietta. You work at PharmaHemp. It's a EU-based company that offers a variety of CBD products. You have also established our R&D department. What is your experience so far regarding R&D projects and cannabinoids applications and formulations?
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Yes, that is correct. In PharmaHemp we have our own R&D department, and we are also registered as a research organization since 2018. In total we have now 5 researchers working on different types of R&D projects, and briefly I will explain them and I will read a few of them just to be sure not to misspell them. So the first project that was co-funded by the EU was New Generation of Hemp Extracts for Natural Cosmetics, which lasted for 2 years since 2018. Then we had 2 projects which were performed in collaboration with Mycomedica. Mycomedica is a Slovenian company that produces medicinal mushrooms. So the first one was first food supplement standardized to erinacin A that lasted 2 years since 2020. And the second project was sustainable production of standardized food supplements from Hericium fungus. This one started in 2021 and lasted for 2 years as well. The last project is safety evaluation of cannabidiols and implications for public health and consumers' behavior, shortly CanSafe. This one is co-funded by ARIS, which is Slovenian research agency, and I will just briefly represent some results and the project. In this project, in total 4 different research organizations are collaborating, namely National Institute of Biology, Faculty of Pharmacy and School of Economics from University of Ljubljana. And PharmaHemp is an industrial partner in this project, which is, I think I mentioned, co-funded by ARIS, so Slovenian Research Agency. The project has started in 2021 and it will end by the end of this year. We already have published results from National Institute of Biology, which showed that the pharma hemp studied isolated CBD and hemp extract were both found non-genotoxic, and also the researchers confirmed that no DNA damage was observed within the performed COMET assay. So another part of this project is currently ongoing. It's performed by the School of Economics, and they are basically examining the public perception towards the use of CBD, different types of products in Slovenia. They're also trying to assess the actual exposure to CBD products from different consumer groups. So this is something that we are looking forward to see, and the results hopefully will be with us in the next few months.
Thank you. Sabina already mentioned your EU GMP license. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that, and maybe a little bit what you're doing in this regard with the manufacturing of cannabis?
Of course, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So at Argent Biopharma in Slovenia is at this point of time, the only manufacturing facility that has an EU GMP certificate issued by the health authorities of Slovenia, so the Agency for Medicinal Products and Medical Devices. We have a license to manufacture non-sterile liquids for investigational medicinal product. We are aiming to also have a regular license for regular medicinal products. However, the Slovenian regulatory framework doesn't allow us to upgrade our certification in that sense because the comment from the health authority is usually that there is no legislation for cannabis-based products, not even medicinal products, so that we need to stay as investigational. As a result, we are producing different medicinal products that are our intellectual property, so our medicines, or we can also do custom-based medicinal product with custom range of different ratios of CBD, THC, and others that we can then supply to other countries and other markets where this is actually allowed for further treatment. And not only this, as Mariette mentioned for PharmaHemp, also Argent Biopharma is also licensed from the Ministry of Health to conduct research on different cannabinoids. What we actually exploit in a sense that we also support research with other facilities, institutions in Slovenia like National Institute of Biology, with whom we worked really closely. But also we do research on our own products to facilitate different clinical trials. What we as a company have sponsored in different countries, like in Australia, aiming to finish also in Israel and also in the United States to show that our products are true medicines and to, in the future, to get them registered.
So you're venturing into the global pharmaceutical industry from Slovenia, basically.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Maybe what kind of other cannabinoids are you looking into other than THC and CBD?
So firstly, we were also investigating the CBG. So Professor Tamara Lah, we have cooperated with her, and the formulation was prepared from my colleagues from the R&D department that were supplying it to the National Institute, where they were actually investigating the positive outcomes on the glioblastoma. So we are open for every opportunity that comes for different combinations that we can then enforce. But for now, we are mostly concentrated in CBD, CBG, THC, and also the full spectrum extract that we have been now for more than 1 year supplying to the UKC, so the Medical Center of Ljubljana. We are also closely working with the pediatric clinic. Unfortunately, we were not able to prepare a medicine, like an oil, that would be then prescribed directly for patients, but we are supplying the API, so the raw extract that is then further processed in the pharmacy.
Thank you very much. Daniel, let's move over to you. How is Laurel Crest participating in medicinal studies and R&D of cannabinoid medicine, and for which products do you think are particularly interesting to investigate?
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon. So Laurel Crest is primarily an ingredient producer in the United States. So we are actually producing CBG isolates, CBD, full spectrum extracts, and working with different countries, which is part of the reason that I'm here, but all over the world, and researchers on formulations that are going into preclinical trials, or for instance, something we're currently working on in Japan is people who failed the GW pharmaceutical trials are going into a trial with a full spectrum extract that we're providing, and going to see how that works in a clinical study. And so we're also providing the platform, which is less formal than what we're talking about here and like to the medical market, but a platform to basically analyze data and at least be able to offer what's happening for these patients that didn't have success with the pure isolate and the difference between that and a full spectrum product. So expanding opportunities in that way, and then also full control of the ingredients going into these formulations. And I think an exciting expansion is terpenes. And so also working with some of the leading terpene researchers and doing combinations of terpenes to see how that improves the efficacy of different formulas.
Wow, that's super interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the public perception of cannabis and also in how this interacts with research and development. Maita, public perception is varying very much from person to person, from individual experience, from many levels. How do you address misconceptions and concerns about cannabinoid-based therapies, and what role does public education and also to a certain extent registration of specific health claims or looking to register for specific medical indications play in this discussion?
Yeah, we've talked about the health claims actually a few years ago now. It is true that we've applied for the authorization of a health claim related to CBD, which could be stated somehow like CBD reduces the stress-induced anxiety. But of course the authorities have not responded yet in any way up until now, so we have no answer from EC and EFSA on this topic.
But that's the same for novel food, right?
Yeah, novel food is relatively the same. I mean, we've heard before that EIHA is very successful in their toxicity studies in clinical trial, basically. At the moment at PharmaHemp, we put this project on hold because of the really high investment. You probably all know that clinical trials are very, very expensive, and we've received the same request from EFSA like everybody else who got validated in the EC, that is perform the additional animal testing along with the one that we already did, plus clinical trials. So it's really a big thing that will or not happen, we'll see.
Yeah, but don't you think it's strange that a lot of people are using CBD products and it's actually publicly available as a food supplement in many cases, and we know about certain risks, and it's still so many barriers in there, whereas it would be an easy thing to just put some risk thresholds or find some individual regulation. Is that also something that you're lobbying, like when you're addressing concerns for cannabis?
Yeah, it's hard to actually comment this, but you can see that reality here, and not only in Slovenia, but I think the whole Europe, is that everybody sells CBD as food supplements, and the authorities are actually not really responding. I mean, there are some cases available on RAPEX system, I think notification system is in Europe, and you can see there are some notifications that there was a removal of the food supplement containing CBD because of the excess of THC and something like this. But when you see the market is still flooded with this kind of products. So, one is theory and the other...
as cosmetics that are just
Yes.
declared as cosmetics.
That's what.
Sabina, let's jump over to you. Maybe you can walk us a little bit through the regulatory landscape here in Slovenia, and when it comes to the treatment with cannabis, and what should change here, or what should be improved or changed. And how is the experience here different with your experience in other markets?
Okay, As Marietta said, we have a lot of products on the shelves that are cosmetics but are used as food supplements. Yeah, this is some kind of, let's say, how you avoid some regulatory obstacles. But these products, let's say, primarily are not intended for treatment. So usually for treatment of different symptoms or diseases, medicinal products are used. So as I mentioned before, what is also an obstacle for us as a GMP licensed manufacturing site is that we don't have any concrete regulatory framework when it comes to cannabis-based medicinal products. This is also, it's very limiting how to bring products to the Slovenian market. And not only how to bring products to the Slovenian market, if we produce it as a company for other markets, it's also a difficulty to export them. So the thing is that in Slovenia, cannabis-based treatments are usually allowed as magistral medicines, meaning that the pharmacy can order APIs, so active pharmaceutical ingredients. These are ingredients, cannabinoids of any sort that need to be manufactured in an EU GMP facility, so in a facility that is producing according to the guidelines for medicinal products. So not nutraceuticals, this really needs to be pointed out. And these APIs are then supplied to the pharmacy, and pharmacy, according to the prescription of the prescribing doctor, prepares a formulation. These formulations are in Slovenia also in the health insurance system, so these ratios need to be approved also by the sector of the pharmacists of Slovenia, and these are the only ones that are also reimbursed that the doctors can prescribe. So this is very limiting because we as patients, for instance, don't have many options into getting the medicine that you want. And also it's limiting for the industry in a sense that we can produce different medicinal products that can be offered that will ease the life of the doctors, of the pharmacies, and so on. But since there is no regulation, we cannot work anything through. I can share an experience that we have at Argent Biopharma, that the pharmacy actually approached us, that they wanted us to produce the oils for them because I'm not sure how many you have experience with full spectrum cannabis extracts, but these are very viscous and very hard to work with. And you need to have, let's say, a bit of experience to work with them, to dissolve them and so on, and also not to compromise the quality of the extract because we still want the cannabinoids to be there. And we went together to the agency to ask for the permission, and constantly we get a no because there is no legislation. And then we are constantly in circles, and it's a shame because in Slovenia, I believe we have a lot of know-how from different companies. We have a lot of openness. Yeah, and collaboration with different institutions, with healthcare professionals, between us in the business, so business to business, we have with different markets. And instead of us being a trendsetter, we are waiting for others to have a trend and then we follow. And we have also very good experience at Argent. We are supplying our medicines to Ireland. Following also on the last question, in Ireland you have a medicinal cannabis access program that they have published 3 different indications for which the doctors can prescribe the medicinal cannabis medicine. So the product needs to go through an evaluation at the health authority. So not everyone and every company that produces something can get there. So you need to show your quality, consistency, that you are an EU GMP certified site, and then this product is also fully reimbursed by the health authority, and the doctors can prescribe them. And there are several products that you can pick from so that you can also treat the patient. And this is really limiting in Slovenia, and it's high time that we move forward in this sense.
It's holding also back economic potential.
For sure, for sure.
Daniel, let's jump back over to you. Where do you see the greatest expansion potential for cannabis and plant-based medicine research? And how do you think this will affect in the long term also the consumers and patients, maybe also in addition to that?
Yeah, so I'm coming from a slightly different perspective than the more medical route, in the sense that it's like the thing that still keeps it very inspiring is that these products change lives, and they're very, it's still kind of a word of mouth industry, strangely, where your speech this morning was very moving, where parents find that this really helps, and then they tell another parent, and then it becomes a larger circle of people who believe in the medicine because they see that it is really working and it's changing the lives of the people that they love. And so how do you bring that patient, it's not really a patient network as much as it is like a community of people who really want to see these accessible to more people who are experiencing whatever hardship or disease state or, you know, mental stress, whatever it is, for the people around them. And so using these patient groups or these community groups to collect data around formulations that can be maybe formulated in a medical setting or formulated like at Laurel Crest, you know, where we're working with doctors to create the formulations based on their research and applying it to a community group that wants to also be a part of the advocacy. And so the data is less formal than a expensive clinical trial, but it's still data that's showing that these things work. And you can kind of, it depends on the group that you're working with, but you can cross into, you know, like aura rings and different kinds of ways to measure how this is treating or improving something, or maybe not working so that you can improve the formulation. And so it's like, I think that all of the work that we're doing is super important to continue to get the message out there that this is a safe alternative to some of the pharmaceutical ingredient, you know, some of the pharmaceutical things that are prescribed all the time that are ruining people's lives. And so that's where Laurel Crest sits there, because we're really not in the United States. We do not have to have the level of compliance that you do in Europe, but we're working towards that to participate in the world market.
But the FDA is going more against it recently, and they're also looking to standardize more, right? Like
I mean, we are built for compliance. So we are hoping, we would love the FDA to say something and do anything. It would be very helpful to Laurel Crest and companies like us that are built to really stay within the regulatory like escalation of the market.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting to see if you compare, like for the audience to compare the last two answers, yeah, like from the ladies, you can see how this is the conundrum that we are in. Yeah, at the one hand, you just have the consumers who want the products, who are pushing for initiative, who are taking the governments to courts, and then you have the government, and the government, they don't want to react because they're scared of making something wrong. But you have the experts there who could help build those frameworks and these ecosystems. So it's something interesting, I think, that just comes out of that those two answers, because it shows the contrast. Yeah. So, Marita, let's jump back over to you. What about the future? Do you already have new plans for R&D projects?
Sure, like always. Yes, it is true. We are all constantly developing new products, new technologies. And for sure, I can mention one milestone that happened just recently. We signed a memorandum of cooperation with the TNL company. TNL company is a South Korean-based company that produces various types of polymer-based technologies, which are basically final products like cosmetics and medicinal products. So together with TNL, we are developing at the moment new type of patches that will be infused with CBD. And the thing is that the operational date of the production facility, which will be in Maribor, is planned for the second half of 2025. So by then, hopefully, we will start producing the innovative CBD patches, which will be very beneficial for the treatment of acne. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. And what markets are you going into, Sabina, that are new and exciting for you?
So the most exciting market would be Slovenia, of course, but we will still need to wait a little bit. So we are exploring, as I mentioned, Ireland, and we would also expand our portfolio in the Irish market because Ireland is now also looking into adding pain as an indication for treatment with cannabis-based medicinal product. We are also present in the UK for the treatment of epilepsy, so refractory epilepsy. What we are now also planning to broaden our portfolio with one of our also flagship products, but for the treatment of Parkinson's disease. So we are actually planning to now cooperate with one clinic that has 200 patients so that we could also see the benefits in the treatment of symptoms that are connected with the Parkinson's. Also, non-EU markets are really interesting, especially Brazil, what we all know. So Brazil also did some changes in the legislation, whereas you cannot just bring a cannabis-based product into the market. It needs to go through a sanitary authorization, which is something similar as a traditional herbal medicine in EU. We have been present in Australia, but we're not sure whether we would stay there. We would mostly like also to focus in the US. I think there is a big potential. So we are working very closely with the FDA to also go over some bridges there and to bring the products there. So unfortunately, Slovenia has a big interest of ours, but we don't see anything happening in the near future. So we are exploring other markets globally.
Oh, that's super interesting. Also for the States, like especially for the medicines part, there's not so much if you really look at it, like from the standardized, like national available kind of things. Maybe you can also tell us a little bit because it's your home market about how you looking to get more access there on a national, safe and compliant level, and what kind of international markets are exciting for you?
Yeah, the U.S. is a confusing market because there is so much gray space in the market at the moment, and until the FDA says something publicly, it seems like it'll remain. And then also with elections coming up, there is no farm bill, no new farm bill, and so that kind of maintains the status quo of a lot of gray space. And so the majority of our work is really in the therapeutic molecules, and so we see that continue to be added into different formulations worldwide. So that's expanding throughout the US. It's being added into cannabis in the regulated market state to state, where you're complementing THC with CBG and CBC and CBN for different effect-based products. So we're seeing a lot of expansion there. And then our largest expansion this year is a distribution center in Japan. And so working really closely with a patient network there who advocated really strongly to raise, there was recently laws in Japan that were going to change the THC limits to 1 part per million. They've now advocated for 10 parts per million, which is just a little bit better. But this patient network we've been actually working with for 5 years, providing product to this group. And so they're really working with them to advocate to continue to be able to serve that group of people. And so that's an exciting project that's kind of becoming more realized as the regulations are changing, and the Japanese group, this patient group is being more vocal about their rights to
super interesting,
hemp.
especially because the Japanese market are super anti-THC.
Yeah, so I mean, it all is anti-THC. They are allowing this one formulation to come in to see, but it's almost like, honestly, it's almost like they made a mistake and said, we're going to do you know what I mean?
Oops.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's what's interesting, I think, about all the markets and learning today more about EU GMP and what it would take for Laurel Crest to become EU and GMP, what that really means. Like, everywhere that I go, I feel like I'm learning something else, and also no one's really sure what's going to happen. And so we're expanding as we can. You know, we've shipped product into Ghana, South America, just opening things as it becomes available, and yeah.
Thank you. So I think, Gaio, how many, do we still have time for questions?
You can talk all you want.
We have 40 minutes left.
14.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like now, that gives us a little bit. Like I didn't expect to be over that early. I didn't have a time on, so. yeah.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it for them. They're doing great.
Yeah, then maybe we keep the discussion 5 more minutes on stage, and then and then 2 questions. Yeah. Okay. So let's keep the discussion a little bit more on stage. But it just, I think it's super interesting to see like all your different experiences and what you're doing on a local level and how we're all doing our jobs to bring the puzzle pieces together. Maybe a question to all of you: what do you think should be done and could be done also by us, by regulators, or maybe also by getting patient engaged and those kind of initiatives? What should happen more that in order to get a more harmonized framework? Maybe Sabina, I'll start with you. What should change there in that regard?
Good question. Firstly, I worked in a regular pharmaceutical industry. So I have been in quality for more than 10 years, and I came to Argent Biopharma, entering a pharmaceutical industry connected with cannabis. So for me, if you are a GMP manufacturer and if you produce medicine, you know it's effective, you know it's safe, compliant, and you just give it. And when I started, my colleagues that are also here were constantly telling me, Sabina, it's not that easy. How it's not easy? We have their opioids, it's easy, you give them, you distribute them, and so on. And I noticed that the biggest obstacle is education. So people don't know a lot about it. The problem then second, education, I mean also from the healthcare system, to the regulatory, and then also to patients, consumers that are mixing also food supplements, treatments, THC with CBD, and so on. And I think this is the biggest obstacle that we have. And this is our, let's say, responsibility. In a sense, we, I can say in my company, we really work closely with doctors, with institutions, with clinics, for this purpose to educate. Also, we educate our business partners, because a lot of times we get a lot of offers that are connected with CBD, THC, and then we also need to educate the difference of medicinal product, food supplement, treatment, daily intake for supplementing food, and so on. So I think this is the first thing where we should start, is with the education.
Danielle, what do you think should be done more, like especially because you talked about the US and the different markets, and I know you have the same situation like we do here with the HHC, Delta 8, Delta 10, that are maybe oftentimes also used in a medicinal context, but are only available as a commercial product without the proper help by for education, as you say, is important. But what do you think should be better?
I mean, I do think that in the US specifically, it would be really helpful if the FDA would come out and say something so that at least manufacturing had to meet certain standards. For Laurel Crest, for example, we're a GMP facility. Our infrastructure is built to go up into pharmaceutical if we needed to. But we are doing that out of like a desire to be a leader in the industry, not because we have to. And so we're self-regulating based on our ethics, not on any regulatory body that's telling us that we need to be making the products in an environment that you would want any, medicine to come out of. And so that would be great. And then also just community forums. I mean, like this, like your network, Empower Women's Cannabis, it's really important for everyone to be communicating and also linked in the collective movement towards normalizing hemp and cannabis, or this amazing magical plant that brings us together, and not having it be so much about like how much money you're going to make all the time, because we have seen that also isn't really a lasting motivator, So yeah, I think that the continued community and conversation is one thing that's super important, and then more regulation in the US would be really nice, because we could guarantee that even if you are making HHC or D8 or all of these different products that have kind of poured out of CBD isolate in the last years, to kind of the Farm Bill allowed a big definition of what hemp is and what is derived from hemp. It would be great if those were all being made in facilities that were safe.
And across the globe more, like that is, maybe you can add to that, Mayeda, like because you are active with ingredients in different standards of identity, what should be the thing that should happen on the European level, but also on a global scale, so we can get more harmonized and standardized, also frameworks where we as entrepreneurs can then act?
It's hard to get a global picture or to harmonize everything. I think we've discussed this earlier within one of the topics, but I would relate to Sabina, and I think that the education is a very, very important thing here. One is we need to educate the doctors, because I think there's still a lack of knowledge when it comes to cannabis-based therapies. One fact is, for example, that on medicinal school at the University of Ljubljana, the program still doesn't contain any kind of cannabinoids or cannabis-based therapy. So people that basically finish the medical school have no knowledge about the already existing medicines that are possibly to be prescribed in Slovenia, and I think this is a big issue. Another is the education of the people, so of the patients, to enable them to use safely and effectively anything that's related to cannabinoids, because people are still using a lot of garage stuff, which I think is very bad, and this is something that needs to be changed with an ongoing communication, with a clear communication. For example, at PharmaHemp, we took some steps to try to at least raise awareness. I've participated in an interview on MedOvernet, which is a well-known platform in Slovenia. Then we had an open forum where people could anonymously ask any kind of questions that are related to cannabinoids and cannabis therapies. And our scientific advisor, Professor Stanko Srčić, was there to respond to all of those questions. They are still there. It was about 50 questions from basically everyone. And I think this is the way that everybody should do it. And in this manner, we will come to better world.
I have one other thing is because I was touring PharmaHemp, and they have an amazing testing facility, which I'm sure that you do too, with HPLCs and all these things, but standardization of testing is probably the biggest hurdle to the US market at the moment. You can get a test on your product and you get it back from 4 different labs, and it's 4 completely different tests. And so something that is standardizing how we're reading these ingredients would be, from a worldwide perspective, really helpful.
Yeah, I think, but if you look at the picture of these developments, especially surrounding CBD, I don't know, in Europe, to me at least, it feels a little bit like we're in a still stand, especially with all the food regulations and the novel food application. And back in 2019, I think it was, when it was decided that CBD is not a drug, basically, there you could already see some movement against these recreational users or lifestyle users, but still it's just like there's a roadblock and there's no solution to it, and there's also no willingness to release this roadblock. And I think it would be a possibility to create more harmonized rules, because we have like different rules for CBD in the Netherlands, in Germany, in France. Some have special things, yeah, and it's not so difficult. Like, we can use the science and data. I bet you have security thresholds, or don't you? All right, so let's open the floor for questions.
Yes. Let's hear it for the panel one more time. We're going to start here. We're going to go there. Check.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me? Is it working? Yeah. Louder. I have one question. You, in one moment, Danielle mentioned Japan and their regulations. Do you maybe have some insights about their regulations about the CBD and the source of CBD? Because now it's really funny that they accept CBD only if it's sourced, if it's extracted from the, not from the leaves, not from the flower, just from the stalk and root. Is there, do you maybe have some info about that? Is it going in some different direction?
I mean, just like maybe 2 days ago, it is starting to go in another direction, and it was acknowledged that that is antiquated definition. But that definition is going back to, I mean, it's a very, very old definition of hemp and related to fiber. And so it just never changed for many, many years. And with these new regulations, it seems they're not going to require those statements anymore, which obviously if you were importing into Japan and making those statements, we know that it was not true. And so that, I do feel like there is a shift in Japan, and at the same time, the parts per million, the THC parts per million is extremely limiting and extremely difficult to accomplish, and also analyze. Yeah, and so part of the testing, like I mean, depending on what lab you go to, you could get the thing that you want or not, and there's no standard there.
Do you think it's like a form of prohibition through overregulation?
I don't think that the country is comfortable with THC in any at all. Like, it's very uncomfortable with it, and so yes, and it's not 100% different, and there's kind of like this portal through this patient group where they're not wanting to also hurt their citizens. So I don't know, it's changing every day. I get like a WhatsApp text being like, hey, this is the new thought. So I think that it's kind of a dynamic situation, and they're not planning to say anything definite and for a couple more months. So it could continue to shift, but the analyzation of 10 parts per million as a limit for THC is going to be very difficult to consistently achieve by any lab.
But it's an interesting aspect. We have the same situation in Germany. I'm on the German board of the Industry Association, and the German Industry Association. I was for a long term also responsible for the CBD part. And we had a couple of cases where there were CBD products with full spectrum extract cosmetics, and they said you're going against the single convention on narcotics. This is clearly you're drug dealers, and they did creams for putting on your skin, so clearly they're not drug dealers. And so those kind of situations evolve, but in my opinion, those are rooted in the single convention and in an outdated and wrong definition, because you just mentioned the stalks. Those of you who know the plant know that there are little trichomes even to the smallest level, or on the sugar leaves and all those kind of things. So I am personally lobbying to change the definition and to get the update in the single convention for these definitions, because they're just not right. It's just technically wrong. Do we have more questions?
Yes, thank you very much. And I have some question. My name is Ilya Reznik. I'm a psychiatrist and director of International Association of Cannabinoid Medicine. Several years ago, we made some research. What is wrong with CBD oil? It had been published where we collected the samples from the 20 pharmacies and our OTC sources where the CBD oil had been sold, and we made assessment in Leiden laboratory using HPLC in order to compare what doesn't indicated on the label and what is real content. We found that more than 50% of the labels were faked. More than 50% contained even more concentration, majority less, but some samples had more concentrations that it had been indicated. So we suppose that no control really applied to this area. So how we can calculate it using in my clinical practice, in Germany, other countries where the OTC, nobody checked it really. Please.
May I respond? I suppose this was taken from Slovenian pharmacies, if I may ask.
And OTC sources,
meaning drogeries, like drogery market in Slovenia.
Was it in Israel, or where did you take them?
Where? From Israel. Aha.
Was it with the one with
Okay.
Arno, the CBD lemma?
I misunderstood this. Okay. So, firstly, HPLC, even though it's high-performance liquid chromatography, it can show varying results if the method is not qualified and validated. So, if we have oils in different matrices and different ingredients inside, and if this is not brought to the highest level, this can also be a reason that the results are not as what is on the label. We had also an experience when the Institute Josef Stefan took one of our extracts in oil, and their results were drastically different from the result of our laboratory that has a validated method. So just saying that when you use an HPLC doesn't mean that the result is something that you can rely on. And this is also when my colleague here, Daniel, mentioned that you can have HPLC analysis in 4 different laboratories and you get 4 different results. Me as a pharmacist, I will get a heart attack. Because this is, we cannot just rely and say this is a HPLC and it's good enough. So I'm sure that this would be the biggest reason for the difference in the results. I personally would ask what kind of method was used, whether this method is prepared to be used for the analysis of different matrices.
Yeah, but I know the research Dr. Retschnik is referencing, but there's a publication to it actually, but it just shows that within the non-medical part, there is so much fluctuation in the product, and that's, I think, the point that is most important, that there is a varying quality of product with a lot of tainting and a lot of additional things just shouldn't be in there. Yeah.
We have time for
One more question? Yeah? Okay.
One observation. I would like to congratulate ladies on this panel because you are very hands-on and excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, a big applause. Do we have one more question, or I don't know?
I think
But
we're out of
also-
time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're supposed to stop at 4:30. It's like 4:33. So Alex
All right.
gets on my case if we run too late.
Yeah.
I don't want to
So
have to fight.
another round of applause
Let's
for the
hear it, yes.
panelists. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being so wonderful.
All right. The energy's good. Everybody's excited.